I would like to invite Dr. Pratima Murthy, Director of NIMHANS, and Dr. B.S. Shankar Narayan Rao, Registrar of NIMHANS, and Dr. Prabha Chandra, Dean of Behavioral Sciences, to escort the dignitaries onto the dais.
We are honored to have with us today His Highness Shri Yaduvir Krishna Tattva Chamaraja Variyar, the 27th head and custodian and scion of the erstwhile kingdom of Mysore. As we may recall, during the golden age of Mysore kingdom, more than 100 acres of land was donated by His Highness Nalvari Krishna Raja Variyar for setting up a facility to care for the mentally ill. This generous donation of land has played a pivotal role in the history of All India Institute of Mental Health, which we now know as NIMHANS.
Our esteemed guest of honor today is Dr. G.N. Narayan Reddy, former director of NIMHANS, who was a key part of the transition from the All India Institute of Mental Health. We are also truly honored to be joined by doyens of mental health and neurosciences, former senior colleagues who have been an integral part of the rich legacy of NIMHANS, as well as the staff, students, and all of the other people who have been part of the history of NIMHANS.
Now, to invoke the blessings of the Almighty, we invite Dr. Shantala Hegde, Additional Professor of Clinical Psychology at NIMHANS, to deliver the invocation, the NIMHANS anthem.
विगाहमानोऽस्ति नभोऽन्तरालम् प्रसन्नसत्त्वः स्पृहणीयचन्द्रः विगाहमानोऽस्ति नभोऽन्तरालम् प्रसन्नसत्त्वः स्पृहणीयचन्द्रः प्रक्षोब्ध संसार महाब्धिमध्ये भ्रमत्यसो मानसराजहंसः भ्रमत्यसो मानसराजहंसः भ्रमत्यसौ मानसराजहंसः ईषद्विकासं कृतरक्तशोभं हृत्पङ्कजं सन्निहितं तु तत्र हृत्पङ्कजं सन्निहितं तु तत्र जलस्य गर्भे निहिता समस्ति संयोगजा संयमलब्ध शान्तिः संयोगजा संयमलब्ध शान्तिः संयोगजा संयमलब्ध शान्तिः संयोगजा संयमलब्ध शान्तिः
Thank you, Dr. Shantla, for this melodious rendition of such meaningful lyrics. We now invite our esteemed dignitaries to light the lamp, symbolizing the illumination of knowledge and progress.
We thank all the dignitaries. We are privileged to have Dr. Pratima Murthy, the Director of NIMHANS, to deliver the welcome address and set the tone for this historic event.
Yelrigu Namaskara. A very good morning to all of you. At the outset, let me say it's such a pleasure to have such a mixture of people in this audience. I am going to break protocol a little bit by actually first welcoming all our retired employees who are here in such large numbers. It's truly heartwarming and overwhelming to see all of you back in your beloved institution. Distinguished guests, colleagues, staff, students, and all the proud members of this NIMHANS family. A heartfelt welcome to all of you on this very momentous occasion. I don't think many of us really have the privilege to see the 70th year of our institution celebrated in our lifetimes. So it's truly a momentous event. And this also ushers in the inauguration of the Platinum Jubilee year of the All India Institute of Mental Health. Later, of course, we all know it as NIMHANS, and those of us who are young, especially the students sitting above and at the back, so you all know this as NIMHANS, but NIMHANS used to be the All India Institute of Mental Health. And it was sanctioned on the 1st of April, 1954, and on 6th August, 1954, is when, as you will see in the exhibition outside, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, then the Health Minister, Government of India, actually inaugurated this institution. So it is in this month that the institution was inaugurated as the first postgraduate center for psychiatry and allied specialties in mental health that was set up in this site. As we embark on this historic journey, I am deeply honored to extend my personal welcome and the welcome on behalf of the Institute to our esteemed chief guest, His Highness Yaduvir Krishnadatta Chamaraja Vadiyar, the 27th head and custodian of the erstwhile Kingdom of Mysore. I'm sure he would recall very warmly that he was here with us on an earlier occasion when we actually inaugurated the Heritage Museum of NIMHANS and released the Mindscape and Landscape book on NIMHANS. So it's really wonderful to have his presence here. And his presence, both previously and now, is very symbolic to us because his presence reminds us of our deep-rooted history and the generosity and vision that made not just NIMHANS possible, but several educational institutions in the Kingdom of Mysore possible. So I would like to thank you for the generations of help and generosity that the Kingdom of Mysore has provided us over the decades. Thank you very much. Our Honorable Minister for Medical Education and Skill Development, Government of Karnataka, Dr. Sharan Prakash Patil, who's also the Vice President of NIMHANS, was to be with us today, but he suddenly had to back-to-back travels, and he has communicated to us his inability to participate and wish this program all success. So, he will continue to be affiliated with us in his present role, so I'm sure we will see him on some future occasion. Of course, I don't know whether I should say we are honored or we are deeply touched, sir, by your presence, Professor G.N. Narayan Reddy, our former director, and of course, a very well-known neurosurgeon, whose dedication and contributions have left an indelible mark in our institute. Dr. Reddy in some ways connects the past, present, and the future, calling to mind the continuum of excellence that has defined the journey of the All India Institute and NIMHANS. In fact, as we were going around in the exhibition, he said that he had been mentored by Dr. Govind Swami. And those of us who have never seen Dr. Govind Swami and only heard of him actually learn about him, both through your reminiscences as well as the reminiscences of Dr. R.M. Verma, who really used to tell us how visionary Dr. Govind Swami was. And when I welcome Dr. Narayan Reddy, of course, Madam Chandramukhi, welcome to you again. You're part of our family. It's very good to have you. And I also want to take this moment to mention a couple of names. I wish I could mention all the names of our retired faculty and staff members who are here, but that not being possible, I'm just going to mention a couple of names, and I seek your apology for this. Dr. Satyavati, the batch of 1955, Professor of Clinical Psychology, and a teacher to many of us, is here. Mr. M.S. Vasudev Murthy, who served as an AO, should be here. So he must have stepped. There he is. Sir, hearty welcome to you, sir. So you may kindly come up here, please. Thank you very much for being here. And Mr. M.N. Rukma, sir, our AAO. The other person of this batch was, of course, Mr. D.P. Johnson Dhanraj, who worked as physiotherapist. So it's wonderful to have the batch of 1950 with us. Of course, Dr. Narayan Reddy also belongs to that batch. I'm going to crave your indulgence to read out the names of our retired employees who were here prior to 1974 when the NIMHANS was actually established. So I'll just crave your indulgence to mention those names because I know many of them are in the audience. From the 1960s, Mr. Ramaswamy, who was an EEG technician, C. Radhakrishna, who was an AO, Mrs. Yellama, who was a lab attender, Mr. R. Chandrasekhar, who was a UDC, Mr. N. Vishwambaran, who was a mortuary technician, and Mrs. Saida Bashirunissa, who was an instructor. And in the 70s, the list is slightly longer, obviously. And we have Hanumaya, who was a Group D staff, Mr. Rajaram, photographer, Mr. Krishna Reddy, lab attender, Mrs. Kalyani Kutti, ward supervisor, Mr. Sundar Rao, instructor, Mrs. Makbul B, literate attender, Mrs. Teresia, ward supervisor, Mrs. Samyantha, ward supervisor, Mrs. Bertha Pushpanjali, ward supervisor, Mrs. Chandrika Devi, deputy warden, Mr. Krishnamurthy, AO, Mr. Ramchandra, manager, Mrs. Arputa Mary, ward supervisor, and Mrs. Norma Chaurappa, stenographer. The list goes on. I'm just going to quickly read this in case you're here personally. Warm welcome. If you're not here, welcome in absentia. Mrs. Prabhavati, Mrs. Annama Thomas, Mrs. Sugandhi Malekar, Mrs. Bernadette Lewis, Mr. Kannan, I know I saw Mr. Kannan. Mr. Kannan, our driver. There you are, Mr. Kannan. So, if any of the names I read out earlier are there in the audience, please do kindly stand and allow us to recognize you. Mrs. Prema Kumari, Mr. Ramaswamy, Mr. Rangaswamy, Mr. G.R. Rangaswamy, Mrs. Lalitamma, Mr. Shrikantaya, Mrs. Kondamma, Mrs. Girija, Mr. Mari Joseph. I saw Mr. Joseph here, who was our medical records supervisor, officer. Mr. Ramanatha, Mr. Shankarappa, Mrs. Kondamma, Mr. Thiruvenkatacharya, Mr. Nagaraja, Mrs. Yashoda, Mr. Y. Nagaraja, Madam C. Rodriguez, Mrs. Ramani Premlata, Mrs. Mary, Mr. Ramchandra, and Mr. S. Vinayagam. I've only, as I said, talked about people who have been here before 1974 when NIMHANS was established, and to all of you who've joined NIMHANS post 1974 and superannuated, a very, very warm welcome to all of you. Of course, in the realm of advancement and progress, certain milestones stand as beacons, guiding our journey with their luminous significance. This year marks the passage of 7 decades of NIMHANS. We are bestowed with the honor of being able to celebrate this illustrious history. Somebody was saying all these things are happening in this year and the next. 70 years of All India Institute, 50 years of NIMHANS, 50 years of the Neuro Center, which we started in December this year. Next couple of years from now, the 50 years of Sakalvara. And of course, at the end of the year, 10 years of our existence as an institute of national importance. So many, many, many milestones to celebrate, and in some ways to rededicate ourselves to what NIMHANS stands for. We all know, and you're going to see a movie on this, how the origins of the mental hospital date back to the colonial times. And of course, we do recognize that the first establishment for persons with mental illness was set up in 1847. One of the historians who's helped to deal with this, Professor Sanjeev Jain, is also now in the group of retired employees. So I think it's very important that there has been interest in actually developing this archive. And we changed the name of the lunatic asylum to the Mysore Government Mental Hospital way back in 1925. So there were a lot of changes that were occurring in the early 20th century in terms of the attitude towards mental illness and having compassion as well as holistic care. And of course, we moved here to this site in the 1930s to Laksandra. And that is again thanks to the generous donation of land, as was mentioned by Dr. Suhas. So we had a healing environment. To date, anybody who comes to NIMHANS says, there are very few places like this which are hospitals. There is a healing environment here. The moment you come here, there is a feel-good factor. And if you come here in February, March, and see the pink tababuyas in bloom, if there is a heaven on earth, it is here. And all of us, patients, students, staff, faculty, all of us savor that walk through the gardens, particularly at several times during the year. And I mentioned Frank Norona, Sir Mirza Ismail, who was the Diwan of Mysore. And it's interesting that we sold our property on KG Road, where the State Bank of Mysore earlier and now the State Bank of India stands, for a princely sum of 2.5 lakhs when we moved here. And that property, I have no idea how many crores of rupees that must be worth now. The 1930s and the 1940s saw the mental health landscape really gain momentum. The importance of postgraduate education in psychiatry was emphasized by a visit from Professor Maputha from London in the late 1930s. And of course, we all know about the Boer Committee, the Mudaliar Committee, etc., which recommended the need to increase postgraduate training in various aspects of health, particularly mental health care, and to advance personnel and or dedicated training programs. And thus, the All India Institute of Mental Health came about as the first postgraduate training center with the disciplines of psychiatry, psychology, statistics, biochemistry and pathology having started here. Soon after that, we had the Department of Biophysics, the Department of Neurology and Neurosurgery, and since then there's been no looking back in terms of the various departments. Of course, the WHO played an important part in starting the first postgraduate program with the visit of Professor Willie Mayer Gross and several others like Professor Heenig, Professor Lieberman, and so on, who helped to start many of the laboratories here as well as many of the facilities. Dr. M.V. Govindswamy was the first director of the All India Institute of Mental Health. And as I mentioned, the early departments also included the Department of Statistics. So Dr. Govindswamy had this very, very broad vision of not just confining the disciplines of mental health to the core disciplines, but looking at humanities, looking at history, looking at literature. And I hope that same kind of broad-based philosophy will continue to resonate in the present times and in the future times. The Department of Psychiatric Nursing was initiated with the help of two WHO consultants again. The Institute's affiliation with the University of Mysore initially, and then of course with the Bangalore University, then we became a deemed university, and now we are an institute of national importance. In addition to Professor Govindswamy, we must recall Professor Gopal Swamy, Dr. S.K. Ramchandra Rao, who especially looked at the focus on Indology and Sanskrit, something that continues to pervade our interest, deep interest in integrative medicine. We have the first department which combines Ayurveda, yoga, and allopathic medicine, and has now become a model for all the All India Institute of Medical Sciences throughout the country to start departments in integrative medicine. And of course, the subsequent doyens who came in, Dr. Mani, Dr. Verma, Dr. Pillai, they helped to propel care and research in neurological disorders in India. We have all heard about Dr. Verma's famous chemothalamotomy, which was really very, very important in bringing about a lot of change in this institute. And of course, one must not forget the contributions of people like D.L.N. Murthy Rao, Dr. K.K. Masani, Dr. Surya, as well as several of their peers and contemporaries who expanded the canvas of psychiatry, spanning biophysics, biochemistry, mental hygiene, child guidance, up to transcultural psychiatry. Their collective wisdom undoubtedly enriched the comprehensive understanding of mental health. I am not going to tread on the toes of Dr. G.N. Narayan Reddy, because Sir has got a treasure trove of personal reminiscences, which only he can tell us, so I'm not going to go further into those historical aspects. But all I want to say is that last December, we initiated the Golden Jubilee of the Neuro Center. It is intriguing that while the foundation stone was laid on 12th March 1965, it took 8 years to complete the Neuro Center, which was finally inaugurated by the Honorable President of India, Sri V.V. Giri, on 30th December 1973. It really speaks about the amount of planning, patience, and perseverance that goes into building any institution and sustaining that institution. And these are important values that all of us, young and old, need to cherish while we strengthen our institution beyond this. Because as we grow, the challenges also grow, and we need to grow and our patience and our perseverance along with those challenges. So what began as AIIMH with 5 departments and 14 students has now evolved into a substantial institute with 28 dynamic departments and over 400 aspiring students. 499 students come in each year. So we have thousands of students at any cross-sectional time who are studying here, who are looking for succor. And one of the things that happens is wherever you go in the world, if you have studied at NIMHANS, your umbilical cord with NIMHANS never gets severed. So that is something that all of us are very grateful for. And our evolution is thus a testament to the power of visionary leadership of yesteryears, a thirst for knowledge and excellence, and a commitment to fostering a better world. And therefore, patient-centric care has always been the mantra of our institution. So we have now evolved into a bastion of mental health and neurosciences, and been an institution that not only touched countless lives, but also shaped the very landscape of our field. in addition to bringing all our retired employees together, I hope at some stage our patients who have benefited over the years will also be able to come and tell us, I was also a part of the NIMHANS history. And I hope that we will be able to do that. Dr. Prabha is going to lead us through many of the other events, and it just struck me that they are also, a very, very unforgettable part of our history, and we need to recall them. So this journey has been one of boundless energy, innovation, and growth. And this Platinum Jubilee not just marks the passage of time, it encapsulates the evolution of ideas, the relentless pursuit of knowledge, and the resilience that has propelled us forward. It's a moment to pause and reflect on all the milestones we have received, the challenges we have surmounted, and the lives we have touched. This is also a clarion call to the future. Our journey has not reached its zenith. It stands at the brink of new horizons. It's not only an opportunity to revel in our accomplishments, but also a moment to ponder on the possibilities that lie ahead. It beckons us to dream bigger, reach higher, and aspire for greatness that transcends the boundaries of the imaginable. Throughout the year, Dr. Prabha will talk about the series of activities that we've planned. So this is not just a series of events, it's a collective bringing together of memories that all of us hold dear. And I invite all of you to participate in this. This was a bit of a hurried event, and I'm glad it has brought so many of us together to actually perhaps also contribute to the planning of the events that we have in the year ahead, so that all our alumni, faculty, staff, students, every employee, patients, and well-wishers will all join hands and celebrate in the success of this institution. Let us mark this momentous occasion not only with festivities, but with also a shared resolve to continue this transformative journey that began 70 years ago. With pride in our past and a fire in our hearts, let us step into the future, igniting it with brilliance of our aspirations. And remember, the next year, on 14th February, we'll again be celebrating a very momentous Institute Day. Our Institute Day falls on Valentine's Day, and this is our love for the Institute. So I do hope that all of you will partake of these festivities. Come and join us in all our celebrations. And once again, with a very, very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Madam, for those warm words and for highlighting all those milestones and key figures of this glorious past of the Institute. The long history of NIMHANS and the rich tapestry is a source of great pride and inspiration for all of us. To allow us a glimpse into the past that has led us here today, a short film showcasing the journey of the colossal All India Institute of Mental Health has been put together. We invite you now to witness snapshots of this remarkable journey.
Welcome to the incredible journey of the All India Institute of Mental Health, now the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, where our roots run deep and our pride soars high. The history of mental health care in Karnataka traces its lineage back to the colonial era, with significant developments taking place throughout the 19th century. Under the reign of His Highness Nalvadi Krishnaraju Vodayar, many hospitals and dispensaries catering to the medical needs of British infantry, Indian soldiers and civilians alike were established. One pivotal milestone was the founding of the Bangalore Lunatic Asylum in 1847 in the Pete area, the Dharmambudi Tank region, which is the current location of the State Bank of Mysore, which is now the State Bank of India. Dr. Charles Irving Smith, a British medical practitioner, played a crucial role in its formation. This institution adopted a revolutionary philosophy for its time. Unlike many other mental health facilities of that era, patients at the Bangalore Mental Hospital were given the freedom to engage in activities and move within the premises. The involvement of doctors from the Indian medical service further enhanced the quality of care. In 1925, the mental hospital reflected the changing societal attitudes towards mental health. By the 1930s, the mental hospital had outgrown its original location, necessitating a move to Lakkasandra in 1936-37, made possible by a generous land donation from the Maharaja Krishnaraja Wadiyar IV. Dr. Frank Xavier Lorona, the institution's first superintendent, along with Sir Mirza Ismail, the Diwan of Mysore, conceptualized and materialized a healing environment within the hospital's grounds, characterized by lush landscapes and vibrant gardens. The mental hospital's unique design set it apart from other institutions, emphasizing a conducive environment for recovery. Dr. M.V. Govindaswamy took the reins after Dr. Norona's retirement, working diligently to transform the institution into a modern mental health care center. In 1938, Professor Edward Mapother's report provided valuable insights into India's mental health care system, laying the foundation for future developments. The board committee in 1946 highlighted the need for well-trained mental health care personnel and advocated for training programs, leading to the establishment of the All India Institute of Mental Health. On April 1st, 1954, the All India Institute of Mental Health was founded in association with the Mental Hospital, becoming the first postgraduate training institute in psychiatry in independent India. The early departments included psychiatry, psychology, biochemistry, pathology, statistics, and psychiatric nursing. Dr. M.V. Gopalaswamy and Dr. S.K. Ramchandra Rao emerged as key figures, contributing significantly to the All India Institute of Mental Health's inception. Later, Dr. D.L.N. Murthy Rao, Dr. K.K. Masani, Dr. N.C. Surya, and their contemporaries and successors added many facets to the understanding of psychiatry, from biophysics and biochemistry to mental hygiene, child guidance, and rehabilitation services to transcultural psychiatry. Dr. M.V. Govindaswamy recognized the vital relationship between the mind and brain, paving the way for the establishment of the neurology department in the year 1957. Guided by WHO experts and leaders like Dr. K.S. Mani, the department advanced patient care, research, and training. Diversifying its scope, the All India Institute of Mental Health embraced neurosurgery and neuroradiology under the leadership of Dr. R.M. Verma and Dr. K.M. Pillai. Dr. Verma's global expertise in neurosurgery energized the All India Institute of Mental Health's mission to pioneer this field in India. Meanwhile, Dr. Pillai's neuroradiology contributions advanced diagnostic capabilities. The Neuro Center, inaugurated in 1973, marked a turning point in neurological and neurosurgical care, providing advanced facilities for treatment and research. In 1974, the erstwhile Mental Hospital and the All India Institute of Mental Health merged to form the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, or NIMHANS. The institute gained deemed university status in 1994 and was conferred the status of an institute of national importance through an Act of Parliament in 2012. The evolution of NIMHANS, from its origins through amalgamation to its recognition as a national treasure, symbolizes a remarkable journey of integration, growth, and innovation in the field of mental health and neurosciences. 70 years of the establishment of the All India Institute of Mental Health Now, the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS. Our roots, our pride.
Continuing our journey through time, we now have the privilege of hearing from a luminary who has witnessed and contributed significantly to NIMHANS' evolution. Please welcome Dr. G.N. Narayana Reddy, former professor of neurosurgery and former director of NIMHANS, to speak on the legacy of our past, achievements of the present, and the opportunities that lie for us in the future. Welcome you, sir.
ओम आनंदमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे ओम नमस्ते to one and all. First of all, I must congratulate our director to bringing so many people here. And when I was standing in front of the center, I was amazed to see so many of my old friends, my seniors and other things, particularly Dr. Satyavati, Vasudeva Murthy. Many of them, Dr. Pratima has already mentioned. So first and foremost, I thought I should congratulate the director for making the significant effort, real effort, to bring all them, irrespective of what position they had. We have started from everybody. So, with that, respected His Highness Yaduvir Krishnadatt Chamaraj Vadeyar, Dr. Pratima Murthy, Dr. Shankaranarayan Rao, Dr. Prabha Chandra, and many of my seniors, colleagues, friends. I don't know, as Dr. Pratima said, we can't name all of them, but it's so thrilling to see all of you. And particularly the present staff also are so active, students, faculty, and everybody. So I feel I am lucky and fortunate to be here today and see all of you and take part on this occasion. We are fortunate, as Dr. Pratima said, to have His Highness Yaduvir Krishnadatta Chamaraj Vadeyar as our chief guest. Sir, Dr. Pratima Murthy has already indicated how we are indebted to the royal family. Nalvadi Krishnarajendra Vadeyar, the most popular in his time. Not only popular, most philanthropic. Just 2 days ago, I saw somebody in a message sending 50 philanthropic activities that he did, apart from many, many other things. So, it is our great fortune that you are with us, and I considered your very presence, representing the whole royal family, is a great augury for this institute and for the future. Dr. Pratima Murthy, as I already said, is a historian. He has already made my task much easier. She has narrated the whole, in a way, steps of how it has evolved, and also brought out a beautiful film. It's very good of her. And not only this occasion, I would like to say, she has been working hard to bring the past history to the benefit of the present faculty, staff, and students. I would like to quote, which I participated. As she said, Neurocenter completed 50 years. And she took the date and month, December 2023, and celebrated the 50 years of neurocenter coming into function. I was lucky because I was also part of the 1973 when it was inaugurated, and she gave me the opportunity to be with the whole staff and students and faculty in the neurocenter on that occasion. As she said, not only this Platinum Jubilee all-year program, she is doing this as an in-house celebrations. She was talking to me and said, her interest is to create enthusiasm among the present faculty and staff and know the relevance, know the importance of what the past has occurred, what is the lessons that we are going to learn, how we can see our future, how one can formulate in the process of that. So it was a great thing. And as she said, as it has said, I was given the responsibility of tracing the past, presenting the present, and declare what could be the future. It is not an easy task. I have taken the help of Dr. R. Srinivasmurthy, who was the former psychiatrist of health. I am thankful to him for his help. In this aspect, I can only share a few probably basic things, fundamental things. And before I start that, I thought my duty is to pay on behalf of everybody staying here and all those who are not here, our tributes, gratitude and tributes to all our pioneers and all the past and people who have contributed not only for establishment but for the growth of the whole institute. Let us pay our grateful gratitude to them. Having paid the gratitude, let us ponder briefly how the historical remnants of All India Institute of Mental Health has helped to a great extent to metamorphosis to become the NIMHANS. All India Institute of Mental Health was unique in many ways, particularly. As it is said, it started in 1954, first of the medical institute to be established by the Government of India, even before the All India Institute of Medical Science and PGI Chandigarh. Not only that, see the name given. It is not said All India Institute of Psychiatric Institute. It is not say All India Institute of other things. The use of health indicates how the pioneers felt the importance of maintaining normal health, not just treating the patients. The second thing is uniqueness of the logo itself. The logo, what does it say? The Hamsa floating on the water. It indicates the importance of tranquility in the life. Without tranquility, life is not any happiness or anything is there. How to get that? It's only through the understanding and knowing activity of the mind and consciousness. Another important uniqueness of this is, as Dr. Pratima has already indicated, the institute started not only treat psychiatrists, neurologists, neurosurgery problems, no. They envisaged to bring all the disciplines related to the brain and mind under one roof. That's a great visionary. Probably this is the only institute in the whole of Asia with this together. Then, the vision envisaged 70 years ago is much more relevant today that we are living. We are in a materialistic world with increasing problems, and then see what was their motive, keeping probably what could happen. The pioneers founded this institute on 3 pillars, tripod approach. One is basically service. Secondly, training to see that manpower is developed and also see the teaching modules are produced from the institute which can be replicated. And thirdly, the research. Though it is in that order, they thought the importance of basic research in the beginning itself. How do you know? The fact, the implication of bringing in a Department of Biophysics and Indian psychology even in the first year itself. So that is the vision they developed. So Dr. Murthy has already said 54 institute started with the first batch of students, and GPM, DSP, Madam has already covered that. And also she has said how Dr. Gopal Swami, Ramchandra, others were there. Not only that, Dr. Govind Swami was so wide in his approach, broad visionary. He brought many illuminaries, literary luminaries, like T.N. Srikantaya, A.N. Murthy. Not only that, he brought even the legal luminaries, like Vasudeva and other things. Also, he brought Major Bhatia and others to give talks to the students and the staff so that there will be an interaction between them and they can see the future of it. Neurology was started in 1957 by Dr. Lieberman with the Dr. Mani as his assistant, and in the same year, Dr. Pillai came in. I was the witness for this because I entered the mental hospital in 55 itself. When Mr. Vasudeva was in the office, I think Satyavati also was there already, 55. I don't know, I'm not sure. I was working as an assistant surgeon. I could see the pavilion adjacent to the female pavilion was all empty. I was wondering, why are they keeping empty? Because we made use of it, I remember, for the insulin coma therapy, those wards. Those days, insulin coma therapy was one of the important treatment for the psychiatric patients. And then, as she said, 1958, Dr. Verma came deputed with the Government of India, and I was his first assistant, as an assistant then in the hospital. At that time, I was also doing my DPM. So, I have seen the institute flourishing so well from 55 to almost 1960. Dr. Govind Swami was originally originally superintendent of the hospital. When the institute came, he was made both as a director and a superintendent. So he was controlling everything, no problems. Hospital was running smoothly, institute was growing, almost flourishing. He retired in 59. Dr. Leland Murthy was appointed. Leland Murthy was the senior psychiatrist from the state government also. Then probably difficulties started. In all our growth, in our life, our institution, we all go through some problems, some difficulties. As it is said, darkness is necessary to see the brightness of the dawn. So, in the history of All India Institute of Mental Health, probably a dark period has come. This dual administration brought more and more confrontation, disharmony, and at one stage, Government of India had decided to shift the institute from Bangalore to Central Institute of Psychiatry, Ranchi. Fortunately, intervention of some MPs, particularly K. Hanumati and others, prevented that. Otherwise, probably we would not have this. And only when Dr. Dr. Surya came in 65. The institute, which was a little unstable after the sudden death of Dr. J.L.N. Mutsrao in 1962, and Masane was there only for a short period, and there was no leader to take it forwards. It's only when Dr. Surya came, the stability came. But unfortunately, Surya also had to face this non-cooperation from the hospital. Realizing this, Surya was very sharp, intelligent, knew what could happen. He was very spiritually oriented. In 1966 itself, he brought in the proposal of integrating both organizations. Actually, Governing Council even formed some subcommittees. But anyway, it didn't take any successful part of that. So 67, I was away from 1960 to 66. State government deputed me to do neurosurgery. I came back, September 66, I think. When I joined, I had seen such a flourishing period, 55 to 60. I see there's a gap between the institute and the hospital. This gap was so much, I used to feel Hosur Road was the Berlin Wall like. So in 1967, it became so acute because I had just 66 September. 67 early year, I was called by the then Nagapalwa, health minister, asked me to take over as superintendent. I pleaded, please, I have just come, let me have some hand-on experience. And I promised him I would try to bring in some harmony between the organizations. With a lot of persuasion, I was able to make the superintendent of the hospital to agree, and Surya to agree. And we, four of us, Dr. Surya and Verma from on that side, me and Sarajabai, met together as an integration to bring in some understanding so that we can go. First meeting took place, but then two meetings, she never came, indicating non-cooperation. So February 68, I got, surprisingly, appointing me as the superintendent of the hospital. The dark period saw the dawn. The new cooperation, harmony, brought in so many things. Hospital facilities were more increased. Then the real next basic, most important milestone took place in 1974. Because 68 to 74, nothing was happening, in spite of resolutions and all that. 74, Dr. Karan Singh, Union Health Minister, came. He visited the hospital, institute, and then came to the hospital, went around, and at the end of this visit, we had a get-together and have tea. At that time, State Health Minister was following. I hope I'm not taking too much time, sorry. Karan Singh raised the question, what is the Virapa? This is pending for so many years. What is the problem to integrate? You know how the ministers react. No, sir, I have no problem. Then get it done. Ramrao and who is this, Dimalo, secretaries of the state and center, I want this to be 6 months. This is a decisive, real decision that has made the whole change. So we have to be grateful to Dr. Karan Singh to take this decision. So from that onwards, in the last 50 years, NIMHANS has grown, as we have seen already, from a society which was registered as a society in December 1974, 75 inaugurated officially. Society was running well. In 1994, the deemed university came, and then institute is upgraded to an Institute of National Importance in 2004. So throughout the history of the Institute, the vision was large and efforts were made to implement this vision of the pioneers to a great extent, except for the short period. Clinical hospital services, training programs have expanded. We have heard already from Timothy how it has expanded so much. Demand is quoted everywhere. Patients come from all over India. Among many innovative activities, it's impossible to go through. I like to highlight only a few. To start with, community mental health activities began, developed, and became a national thing. Then, at that time, realizing and recognizing the large unmet need in the community, and also need of the staff to get out of the walls of the hospital and see the rural areas. 5 extended services were started, so that covering 4 districts, so the staff of all the clinical departments go as a team and take care of these things. The second milestone, probably second important thing is the Ballari Mental Health Project, which is all of you know, and I feel it's a pioneering gift of the Institute to the whole country. This has become the blueprint for the National Mental Health Plan. How this happened? Because at that time we were able to make a tripod to come together. That is Director of Health Services, President of the Jilla Parishad, and NIMHANS work together. Because for any community activity to develop, unless you involve the stockholders of all the people, it will not progress well. Actually, Jilla Parishad President used to preside over the review meetings. So this was a great thing. And then you should never remain within the hospital, as I said. There are some instances where it went out of the way. I would like to recall the important event which took place in 1981. There was a tragedy of the circus. 100 people died. Many people were burnt, injuries. What medical people would say? Oh, let them come to the hospital, we'll take care of it. NIMHANS didn't do that. NIMHANS said, we will go there. I remember Dr. H.S. Narayan volunteered, went to the spot, went to the people, spoke to them, learned the problems, and tried to help them. This is an important thing. This is the approach Institute does, and this continued to do that. Similarly, we took part in other disasters like Bhopal disaster or earthquakes of Maharashtra. So many things, I don't want to elaborate more things. And not only these disasters, even the medical epidemics, Institute took a large part, like encephalitis. So people are suffering all around. Take HIV and AIDS, a lot of work has done. Take the COVID recently, how much Institute has taken part. So these are all indications that the broad vision the Institute has kept up throughout here. As Dr. Pratibha said, Gangadhar and other stream have brought in the spirituality and yoga to integrate with the present modern medical approach. And this is great importance and in the care of the mental patients. And I don't think it has happened earlier, though in a broader way, but now it is taking an important role. The reaching the unreached and taking the care to the doors was the era of the past. But now, during the last 40 years, we have witnessing the tremendous growth economically, and population is prospering. What is the result? Is it good? Good because money is moving. But in other aspects, it is creating a lot of problems. First of all, it brought in the change in the lifestyle. The strife within the group of people is increasing. We see a lot of emotional problems. We see the raising passions of the people. we see the abnormal behavior is increasing. There is an erosion of Indian culture. And added to that, we are seeing increasing old age people. The longevity of life brought in many chronic ailments like dementia, depression, loneliness, addictions, various things. So the present need is to develop and promote the health. See how best we can help the people to stabilize in their emotions and passions. How best we can help to bring in connection between oneself, connecting together. In this direction, NIMHANS is not lagging behind. NIMHANS has already taken up a center called Wellness Center. Prabha will be able to tell. This center needs to be strengthened and should become a multidisciplinary community center, just like Saklavara. The center should study the problems in the community. Institute should give high priority to this. As I said, it should become like a Saklavara. There is a great scope to look into. In this process, there is a great scope to look into our Sanatana Dharma. And Sri Aurobindo says, all life is yoga. Whatever we are doing. To quote Sri Aurobindo, the future of India, to resume the interrupted endeavor, she has to recover and reapply her spiritual genius to every activity of the individual and collective life, and spiritualize the whole of life. He further continues and gives 3 steps to achieve this. Firstly, recover the old spiritual knowledge and experience in all its splendor, depth, and fullness. Secondly, flowering of this spirituality into new forms of philosophy, literature, art, science, any field you take it. And thirdly, the original dealing with modern problems in the light of Indian spirit, the endeavor to formulate a greater synthesis of society, bringing material and spiritual together. Spirituality has an important role to develop peaceful and fulfilling life. Now I just want to briefly touch upon the role of Institute. Having achieved the status of Institute of National Importance, the Institute assumes greater responsibility and accountability. This means the present research activities have to expand their scope beyond the boundaries of disease-orientedness and to disease-orientedness and material sciences. And clinical research should move to preventive and promotional aspect much more. The emerging scientific knowledge and tools and techniques should be utilized to provide care and also to furthering the care facilities. Coming to basic research, we have to pay greater importance to study the brain and mind and their relation. This was the basic motto of the Institute. Mind is the highest developed instrument in human being, and we don't think it is stopped there. It is still evolving to higher levels. The Institute is founded for this purpose, and it has grown and well equipped to undertake this journey. Now, it is time to develop this. The advancement of material sciences has started to look into this area all over the world. We are seeing number of articles coming on consciousness, mindfulness, this thing, from many countries, even from India. The Institute should become leader of this, leader for this, should put in all effort. The Institute should make use of our ancient scriptures, compare and correlate with the latest scientific advances, and evolve strategies which can bring it together. Project Consciousness was started in 1977 or 78. It has come out of its hibernation and become active now. But this should not be confined to a department or a center. I request the whole institute take this as the project of the institute. Take up this. But many departments, including the clinical department, should be involved. It should not say, oh, it's a neurophysiology or some other department. Every department should be involved. Various aspects of consciousness need to be studied. It is common to see altered areas of consciousness in all our clinical practice, whether it's neurology, neurosurgery, any of these things. But why this consciousness altered here? Is it only blooduria or is it only this? But let us go beyond that. It has been repeatedly stressed in our ancient scriptures. The ignorance is the center of all suffering, whether it is physical or mental. The life is meant to enjoy, to be joyful, delighted. Life is never meant to suffer. The purpose of creation is to do that. Man has to rise out of his ignorance. There are many layers of consciousness, from ignorance to the supreme consciousness. Institute has to probe this aspect and study the different levels of mind. Particularly, we can study more taking the intuitive mind. What is this intuitive? Now somebody says, oh, I got an intuition, I did this. What is that? Have you gone into depth of that? Having said this, let me put one more opportunity for the institute to play a bigger role. What is that? The old age and loneliness. This is described all over the world as the new mental health epidemic. Dr. Vivek Murthy, US General in America, has realized this. He has brought out 12 points of multi-sectoral as well as multidisciplinary solutions. But India, should we follow that? No. India has got its own way of looking at it. Old age is treated differently in India. To quote Swami Ranganathananji, he refers to old age as a transition. It is not a loss of anything, transition from aspect of life to another aspect. That's why we Indian people or Indians follow what is called brahmacharya, grahasthasana, and vanaprasthasana, sannyasa, like that. So this is the thing we have to evolve that. How to age, not with a negative thing, with a positive approach. Then he says, the present thinking in the material science in America is, oh, you activize man, make him do this, make him do that, make him think like this, do this, call this thing, all this. This is what we call active aging. Is it going to solve the problems? No, it is not going to solve the problem. We have to bring in Indian spiritual approach and Indian culture and address the issue with a broader way. This change to occur, we need to make the concept of spirituality, concept of religion, whatever you take it, relating to the aging, make it more, how to make it practical and how to make it practicable. This has to be developed. I urge you to identify 5 or 6 such psychosocial issues. Work on them to bring the Indian concept as solution, and then you can share it with the world. And with the present thrust of India to become the global leader, you can help, the Institute can help break through. In conclusion, the Institute at its threshold to break through many of these mysteries which still to be unraveled. It has to maximize, Institute has to maximize its concentrated efforts to play a bigger role to become in the forefront in these areas. I am confident that current and future generation of the Institute will work with the same zeal as our pioneers and our past faculty and staff to make the world better and move forward so that humanity can be helped. I pray and wish all the present and future activities of the Institute all the very best. I want to especially thank Director and staff of the Institute for giving me this opportunity to stand before you, express some views. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your reminiscences and for tracing the metamorphosis of the Institute. Thank you also for marking out for us the emphasis on health and harmony in our beloved NIMHANS Swan logo, and the relationship between brain and mind, which have been the keystones of our institute and will also lead us forward into the future. Today's event marks the beginning of a year-long celebration at NIMHANS. We now invite Dr. Prabha Chandra, Dean of Behavioral Sciences and Senior Professor of Psychiatry in NIMHANS, to share with us an overview of the events planned to commemorate the Platinum Jubilee year of the All India Institute.
Dignitaries on the dais and friends, we are really excited about the 70th year of AIIMH and have a whole series of events planned. Thank you, Professor Reddy, for taking us through the highs and the lows, the darks and the lights of NIMHANS. I can assure you that we have a bigger Berlin Wall right now between the Institute and NIMHANS, which is the Hosu Road traffic. But fortunately, we have a skywalk and we have an underpass. So we have been able to connect both very, very well. So you don't have to worry about that. 70 years, of an alma mater she's no longer an alma mater, she's an alma grandmater. So she's a grandmother now. And like a true I prefer to call NIMHANS an institution as a she, as you can see. So she is full of stories now. She wants to gather all her family around her. She is very concerned about the next generation. She also wants to look back at her roots, share and collaborate and make sure that she sets up a legacy for the next generation to come. So everything that we are planning in the next year is going to be focusing on a very grandmotherly view of and the wisdom and the clarity that 70 years brings to anyone. So the first activity which we did today, was we released a logo and a tagline, which you all saw. We thank His Highness for releasing that. We are planning a longer film on NIMHANS through the decades. This one was wonderful. We are going to trace the history further. The plan is also to have a series of articles in all the local newspapers in Kannada and in English, and in other parts of the country. We have alumni who are there in most states in the country. So the idea is to have articles about NIMHANS in all other states of the country where our alumni is, who can write about NIMHANS. We have a very special event for all the septuagenarians of NIMHANS. So 70 at 70, I know quite a few people are here in the audience. And so all the people who are 70 and above are going to be honored and facilitated in this special 70th year. Uniquely, we are going to create a time capsule, and this is something which has excited all of us. We want to have a time capsule which will have things of today, the way we practice neurology, neurosurgery, mental health, the basic science research, public health, put it in a time capsule and then open it 70 years later to see where we have reached. So that's something unique which we are thinking of. We have planned a stamp and a first day cover. We also have a museum of the brain and mind which we are going to start. And in the end, we are going to have a grand alumni meet in the July of 2024, where we are going to invite all our previous students, faculty, employees. The idea is to have a scientific feast. The idea is to have a cultural feast. And like a true grandmother, she would like to have her whole family around, and we are going to invite people from all over the globe to come and celebrate this festive occasion with us. So to all of them, all of you in the hall, and those who are watching outside, NIMHANS would love to welcome you all back to its arms in this next 70th year, and to make sure that this year is very, very special and celebratory for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We are also about to witness a significant moment as we request our esteemed dignitaries on the dais to release the brochure on All India Institute of Mental Health.
Thank you all. It is truly fitting that our chief guest today is His Highness Shri Yaduvira Krishnadatta Chamarajavadiya. We have heard how the royal family of Mysore has played such an integral role in the formation of our institute, and we're grateful to him for his presence here today. We would now like to request His Highness to address us as the chief guest.
Before I start my speech today, I just wanted to convey my apologies to you all. I was a little late in coming here. I should like to blame Bangalore traffic, but I should know better than now than to plan or any projections given by any maps, etc., applications on the phone that Bangalore will throw you askew. It had shown me half an hour, but it took much, much longer than that to get here. So in any case, it is my own fault for thinking that that would happen. So my apologies to all of you once again. Dr. Pratima Murthy, Professor G.N. Narayan Reddy, Professor Prabha S. Chandra, Professor B.S. Shankar Narayan Rao, the many luminaries and leaders who have contributed tremendously to this institution, who are here today as dignitaries, many staff and employees, retired staff and employees of NIMHANS who have, we have the honor of sharing this momentous occasion with today here, current employees, staff of NIMHANS, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is always a pleasure to come here to the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, in Bangalore. As Professor Pratima alluded to, very fondly remember one of the first events I attended after I took up my responsibility in Mysore was for the dedication of NIMHANS as an institution of national importance by the then President of India here at NIMHANS, and on that occasion I accompanied my mother, and we were also honored to open the Heritage Museum that you all have here at NIMHANS. So it's very fond memories, and one of the first events I think that highlighted perhaps this deeper role we have in a bond to the older institutions of our state and our country that the palace has. And I always say, perhaps, having one foot in the past, being sort of a legacy family, we're always looking for windows into the past or what life was like before then. And in Mysore, you obviously run into that every now and again around the corner. But I think in Bangalore, if you had to push someone through a door, it would be through the gates of NIMHANS that you would, see that old charm that was Bangalore at one point in time. And it is truly a pleasure to come here. And I think, as the director said, the aesthetics and the environment of NIMHANS is so pleasing that it helps in the aid of having good mental health. And I think that is also perhaps something that we need to look into, because aesthetically, the built heritage that we have of that era and compared to what we have now in the modern era, how it lends itself to mental health is something I always am pushing forward, as we want to conserve our built heritage. And it is not a coincidence that buildings from previous eras, as we trace through history, were made a lot more inviting, a lot more in tune with public requirement. It's not just Nimhans, but if you look at the law courts in Bangalore, you look at the palaces that were there, or the many other buildings in and around Bangalore which have tremendous heritage, they were, I think, inviting people to come, communicate, and be a part of public discussion going forward. And it's something that we need to endeavor ourselves forward if we are to build back that old era of Mysore and that golden period of Mysore for a new golden period of Karnataka and our country as well. Today it's not just a pleasure but my tremendous honor to be here as the chief guest for the Platinum Jubilee year of the establishment of the All India Institute of Mental Health. I must thank you all for extending this courtesy to me. It is a tremendous honor for us at the Palace to continue this relationship with Nimhans, and I consider it my duty as well as a proud privilege to be continued to be honored by all by such participation in such august events by Nimhans. On behalf of the Palace at Mysore, I extend my heartiest congratulations to all of you on this momentous occasion, and I wish the year-long celebrations commemorate the tremendous contribution Nimhans has made towards society in general and towards building this sort of strong mental health within society, within our state and within the country as well. So once again, many congratulations to you all. As mentioned before by the director and various dignitaries, the small contribution at that time, we really look upon it as the planting of a seed. And while certainly the person who, there's an age-old saying of the person who plants a seed without ever having to have the benefit of a shade is the one who truly understands life. I think that is something of an ideal which we all need to learn from the people of the old Mysore and our elders, because indeed for all of us, that is what they have done in Nimhans, the institution it has grown into today. No doubt in large part due to the nourishment of the various directors, due to the various administrative leaders and the staff and employees of Nimhans to coming to today. I think all of their contribution has lended to today this becoming a huge institution which is providing shade to all of us in the very crucial or critical sector of mental health. And this is indeed an honor for all Indians, and this is not just coming from the Palace, but being a Kannadiga, and that the many trials and tribulations you all have had to endure towards keeping it within the state itself, as we learned today, is something of tremendous pride to every Kannadiga, I think, and as a Kannadiga, it is something very prideful in all of us that this institution comes from Karnataka and is part of the medical heritage of the country that Karnataka has contributed. I think it was last time that you mentioned when we opened the Heritage Museum that the state of Mysore, with all the various medical institutions, the Minto Eye Hospital, the Victoria Hospital, the Krishnajayendra Hospital in Mysore, as well as the Ayurvedic College in Mysore, that Mysore was in fact, you were chances of getting better healthcare in the state of Mysore than you were in England itself. So I think Nimhans is a testament to preserving that legacy and continuing to be at the forefront of that. So essentially what we need to learn from is in order to build back to that legacy or that golden period of Mysore, Nimhans is the inspiration for that, and the road laid by all is something that we need to all follow in order to build back towards that legacy. Lastly, of course, you all mentioned the hybrid that you all are doing with all of the wealth of information that comes from modern science and modern medicine. You all are also incorporating our Tattva Shastra or our philosophy, as well as yoga and many other practices that come from our Bharatiya civilizational principles. And that is indeed something that all of us youngsters look forward to keenly, because I think at the end of the day, what Bharatiya philosophy stresses more than all is mental health and the pursuit of mental happiness. And this, I think, is a key endeavor and can be something that is as ongoing narrative point within India nowadays. There's soft power, and can be something that really pushes forward in the area of soft power for our country in the area of mental health. So I'm very keen for that to be in any which way the Palace can help, given that we have our own sampradaya and our own philosophies within a small stem of Bharatiya Parampare. I'm most keen to be part of that process and help out in any which way. And lastly, I should also mention we are in Mysore doing the endeavoring for Mysore to be a cybersecurity cluster, for which the government of Karnataka has made us a cybersecurity cluster. We are building up cybersecurity as a base and as something that can be an economic driver of Mysore. A keen area of that is, of course, mental health issues faced by victims of cybercrime. And I invite NIMHANS to please be a part of that collaborative process to see how we can endeavor to solve this. And truly, the benefit that NIMHANS has seen in the physical world, we'll extend that to the digital world as well. I look forward to that collaboration as well. Once again, my many congratulations to you all. I will not talk much more. I think it's the hour of nodding off has come upon all of us, and as it is made it late. So once again, I thank you all for inviting me here. I look forward to hearing all about the year-long celebrations and our continued pleasure and hospitality of NIMHANS in the years to come. Thank you all so very much. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.
Thank you, Your Highness. In fact, all of us present here are either children of Karnataka or adopted children of Karnataka, and that hemme of being in NIMHANS and that hemme of calling this as Namma NIMHANS, Namma Nadu, is something that flows through our veins day in and day out. Thank you so much, Your Highness, for that wonderful speech. In recognition of their invaluable contributions, we now request the Director, the Registrar, and the Dean of Behavioral Sciences, NIMHANS, to felicitate His Highness Sri Yaduvira Krishnadatta Chamaraja Vadiyar and former Director of NIMHANS, Dr. G.N. Narayana Reddy. On this occasion, we also request the Director, the Dean, and the Registrar to honor Dr. K. Satyavati, the senior-most faculty of clinical psychology who has graced today. Madam, you are not only the senior-most faculty of clinical psychology who are there amongst us, you are also one of the original students of NIMHANS from the initial batches. It's a privilege to have you here with us, Madam.
Thank you all. And now for the closing words of gratitude, I invite Professor B.S. Shankar Narayan Rao, the Registrar of NIMHANS and Professor and Head of Neurophysiology, to deliver the vote of thanks.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. Today is a momentous occasion in the history of NIMHANS. Started as a mental asylum, subsequently as a mental hospital, state mental hospital, and then All India Institute of Mental Health amalgamated into National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, subsequently as a deemed university and institute of national importance, where the growth is seen over decades. Today we are celebrating, or we are only beginning the Platinum Jubilee year of establishment of All India Institute of Mental Health. On this occasion, I'm very sure that all of you will agree the kind of vision and taking care of the mental health at that point of time, over 100 years back, by Mysore Maharajas, that has translated into this hospital and which transformed this country when it comes to the mental health and neurosciences. To grace this occasion, and His Highness ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರು ಮಹಾರಾಜರು ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿ ಚೀಫ್ ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ನಿಮ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ವತಿಯಿಂದ ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಆನ್ ಬಿಹಾಫ್ ಆಫ್ ಈಚ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ಯು ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಪ್ಲೆಜರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ His Highness to be the chief guest. Thank you very much. The legacy of Mysore Maharajas is not only the contribution to the healthcare, but its overall society building. And the same thing has been continued with the present Highness as well. I'm very sure that under his, the directions and mentorship, which he is providing for the entire state, and using the multiple technology, including the cyber security, which he is going to partner with NIMHANS, and we are really overwhelmed and we are very thankful to Mysore State Maharajas. Namma Mysore Maharajas ke dhanyavadagalu sir. Most importantly, remembering and also understanding the growth which has occurred in decades. And very few luminaries, they have part of initiation of All India Institute of Mental Health, and also they contributed significantly for the growth of the institute. And subsequently, they witnessed the growth and they gave the directions from point to point. And also, each one of that has translated. And it's a great pleasure to have our former director, G. Narayan Reddy. His contribution to the growth of this institute is, it's invaluable. And the stories which many of those things in the way the NIMHANS has stayed here, and also the growth which has occurred, each one of that is education for us. And on behalf of each one of you, and I take this opportunity to thank profusely Professor G. Narayan Reddy. ಹಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿನ ಇಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಮಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಉಣಬಡಿಸೋದು ಭಾಳ ಕಷ್ಟದ ವಿಚಾರ. ಸೊ ಆ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಸಿಬ್ಬಂದಿಗಳು ಈ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇವೆ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿ ನಮ್ಮ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರು ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಹೆಸರುಗಳು ಮಾತ್ರ ಇವತ್ತು ಅವರು ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕಾಯಿತು. ನಮ್ಮ NIMHANS ಸಿಬ್ಬಂದಿಗಳು ನಿಮ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ಗಾಗಿ ಸೇವೆ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿ ಈ ಒಂದು 70 ವರ್ಷದ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗಿಯಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಇನ್ವಿಟೇಷನ್ ನಾನು ಇಮೇಲ್ ಮೂಲಕ ಕಳಿಸಿ ಮತ್ತು ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾದಷ್ಟು ಫೋನಿನ ಮೂಲಕ ಕೇಳಿದಾಗ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ನಮ್ಮ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಬರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಭಾಳ ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ನಡೆಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ, ನಾವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ, ನಿಮ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಭಾಗಿಯಾಗ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ವಿಟ್ನೆಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದಂಥ ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ನಿಮ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ವತಿಯಿಂದ ಹೃದಯಪೂರ್ವವಾದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನ ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಇದೊಂದು ಬಿಗಿನಿಂಗ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು. So whoever has contributed at various capacities, at various levels, each one of them will be remembered, and also will cherish with their contribution for the further growth of the NIMHANS. The NIMHANS is already grown beyond what was expected about 100 years back by Mysore Maharaja. And we have a North Campus for serving the Sakalvara. We have the NIMHANS Center for Wellbeing. Now we also have the South Campus. Each one of them are contributing for the growth, and there is a lot more to be grown. And I'm very sure that the contribution of all the past administrators, directors, CAOs, and most importantly, the faculty and the staff, each one of them are contributed for the growth of the present, the fruitful NIMHANS, what we are seeing. And the NIMHANS is an apex center for many of the flagship programs of the Government of India and Government of Karnataka. I take this opportunity to thank the Government of India and also the Government of Karnataka, and most importantly, Mysore State. And when we begin with Mysore State, and thanks to the Mysore Maharajas for helping us for establishing this facility and also supporting in all dimensions and mentoring and guiding us for the further growth of NIMHANS. So on behalf of each one of you, I take this opportunity for the past, the faculty, students and staff each one of them who have contributed. And most importantly, we gave, all our best to take care of our patients, and they are the pillars. So because of the patients, the institute has grown and facilities have grown. And I would like to place on record the lakhs of patients, where we had an opportunity to serve them, and it's all happened because of the NIMHANS. So thanks to the NIMHANS for providing an opportunity for each one of us to serve, and we are dedicated to serve further as well. And also the present students, staff and faculty, each one of you, there's our Dean mentioned, there is a year-long programs will be there. This is to mark the occasion of 70 years of All India Institute of Mental Health. And also we are going to have the closing ceremony of 50 years of celebrations of Neurocenter, and we are going to begin the 50 years of National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, and we have completed 10 successful years as an institute of national importance. What a glorious moment for NIMHANS, and we are witnessing each one of them. So on behalf of the director and on behalf of the entire fraternity of NIMHANS, and we take this great opportunity to thank all our senior colleagues and who served this institute and who have brought this institute to this level, all the senior colleagues as well as the present staff and students to be part of this occasion and also celebrating during this momentous occasion. Thank you very much. Namaskara. Dhanyawada. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. We would like to take a few moments now to honor our great nation. The singing of the Indian national anthem unites us all in a celebration of our shared values and pride in our country. May we kindly ask each and every one of you to please stand and join Dr. Shantala Hegde in singing the Indian national anthem.
Janagana mana adhinayaka jaya he Bharata bhagya vidata Punjab Sindhu Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Vanga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Uchchala Jaladhi Taranga Tava Shubha Name Jage Tava Shubha Ashisha Mare Gahe Tava Jaya Gatha Janagana Mangala